I'm not going to. It's long, but I'll just read enough so you can kind of get the feel for what it is. I will say this, even though after I stop, being a Bolano story, it just gets more deranged and creepier as it goes on. Even though where I'm stopping, it's still not as disturbing as it will soon get. And disturbing in the sense that, like most of his work is, it's not just like it's outright. It's not explicit, but it's just this atmosphere of dread and of malevolence, and which is, I think, more off-putting than anything else. And in fact, in this piece, the narrator kind of refers to that. So here we go. It's called The Colonel's Son. All right. You're not going to believe this, but last night, at about 4 a.m., I saw a movie on TV that could have been my biography or my autobiography or my summary of my days on this bitch of a planet. It scared me so fucking shitless, I tell you, I just about fell off my chair. I could tell straight away it was a bad film, or the sort we call bad, poor fools that we are, because the actors aren't much good, and the director's not much good, and the cretinous special effects guys are pretty hopeless too. But really, it was just a very low-budget film, pure B-grade schlock. Now, what I mean, just to be perfectly clear, is a film that cost about €4 or $5. I don't know who had to get laid to raise the money, but I can tell you that all the producers shelled out was a bit of small change, and they had to make do with that. I can't even remember the title. Really, I can't, but I'll just go to my grave calling it The Colonel's Son. And I swear it was the most democratic, the most revolutionary film I'd seen in ages. And I don't say that because the film in itself revolutionized anything. Not at all. It was pathetic, really, full of cliches, entire devices, prejudices, stereotypes, and yet at the same time, every frame was infused with and gave off a revolutionary atmosphere, or rather an atmosphere in which you could sense the revolution, not in its totality, but a fragment. A microscopic fragment of the revolution, as if you were watching Jurassic Park, except the dinosaurs never showed. No, I mean, as if it was Jurassic Park, and no one even mentioned the fucking reptiles. But their presence was inescapable and unbearably oppressive. Do you see what I'm getting at? I've never read any Osvaldo Lamborghini's Proletarian Chamber Theater, but I'm certain that Lamborghini, with his masochistic streak, would have been happy to watch The Colonel's Son at 3 or 4 in the morning. What was the film about? Well, don't laugh. It was about zombies. But if the political background to George Romero's films is Karl Marx, the political background to the film last night was Arthur Rimbaud and Alfred Jarry. Pure French insanity. Don't laugh. Romero is straightforward and tragic. He talks about communities sinking into the mire and about survivors. It also has a sense of humor. You remember his second film, the one where the zombies wander around the mall because that's the only place they can vaguely remember from the previous line? Well, last night's film was different. It didn't have much of a sense of humor, although I laughed like a madman. And it wasn't about a communal tragedy either. The protagonist was a boy who, I'm guessing, because I didn't see the start, turns up one day with his girlfriend at the place where his father works. I didn't see the start, like I said, so I can't be sure. Maybe the boy goes to visit his father, and that's where he meets the girl. Her name is Julie, and she's pretty and young, and she wants to be, or seem to be, up to date, the way young people do. The boy is the son of Colonel Reynolds. The colonel is a widower and loves his son. That's obvious right from the start. But he's also a soldier, so the relationship that he has with his son is one in which there is no place for displays of affection. What is Julie doing at the base? We don't know. Maybe she went to deliver some pizza and got lost. Maybe she's the sister of one of the guinea pigs that Colonel Reynolds is using, although that seems unlikely. Maybe she met the colonel's son when she was hitching a ride out of the city. What we do know is that Julie is there, and that at some point she gets lost in an underground labyrinth and innocently walks through a door that she should never have opened. On the other side is a zombie, and it starts chasing her. Julie flees, of course, but the zombie manages to corner her and scratch her. At one point, he even bites her arm and her legs. The scene is suggestive of a rape. Then the colonel's son, who has been searching for her, appears, and between them they manage to overpower and kill the zombie, if such a thing is possible. Then they race down increasingly narrow and tortuous underground passages until they finally make their way out through the sewers to the surface. As they're escaping, Julie begins to feel the first symptoms of the illness. She's tired and hungry and begs the colonel's son to leave her or forget her. His resolve, however, is inexhaustible. He has fallen in love with Julie, or perhaps he was already in love, which suggests that he has known her for some time. In any case, armed with the generosity of the very young, he has no intention, come what may, of leaving her to face her fate alone. When they reach the surface, Julie's hunger is uncontrollable. The streets have a desolate look. The film was probably shot on the outskirts of some North American city. Deserted neighborhoods, half-derelict buildings that directors who have no budget use for shooting after midnight. So that's where they end up. The colonel's son and Julie, who's hungry and has been complaining all the time they were running away. It hurts, I'm hungry. But the colonel's son doesn't seem to hear. All he cares about is saving Julie, getting away from the military base and never seeing his father again. The relationship between the father and son is odd. It's clear from the start that the colonel puts his son before his duties as a soldier, but of course his love isn't reciprocated. The son has a long way to go before he'll be able to understand his father or solitude or the sad fate to which all human beings are condemned. Young Reynolds is, after all, an adolescent, and he's in love, and nothing else matters to him. But careful, don't be misled by appearances. The son appears to be a young fool, a young hothead, rash and thoughtless, just like we were, except that he speaks English. And this particular desert is a devastated neighborhood in a North American megalopolis, while we speak Spanish or something similar, and live and stifle on desolate avenues in the cities of Latin America. When the pair emerges from the maze of underground passages, the landscape is somehow familiar to us. The lighting is poor, the windows of the buildings are smashed, there are hardly any cars on the streets. The colonel's son drags Julie to a food store, one of those stores that stays open until 3 or 4 in the morning. A filthy store where tins of food are stacked up next to chocolate bars and bags of potato chips. There's only the one guy working there. Naturally, he's an immigrant, and to judge from his age and the look of anxiety and annoyance that comes over his face, he must be the owner. The colonel's son leads Julie to the counter where the donut and the sweets are, but Julie goes straight to the fridge and starts eating a raw hamburger. The storekeeper is watching them through the one-way mirror, and when he sees her throw up, he comes out and asks if they're trying to eat without pain. The colonel's son reaches into the pocket of his jeans and throws him some bills. At this point, 4 people come in. They're Mexican. It's not hard to imagine them taking classes at a drama school, or for that matter, dealing drugs on the corners of their neighborhood, or picking tomatoes with John Steinbeck's farmhands. 3 guys and a girl in their 20s, mindless and ready to die in any old alleyway. The Mexicans show an interest in Julie's vomit too. The storekeeper says the money's not enough. The colonel says it is. The colonel's son says it is. Who's going to pay for the damage? Who's going to pay for this filth? Says the storekeeper, pointing at the vomit, which is a nuclear shade of green. While they're arguing, one of the Mexicans has slipped in behind the till and is emptying it. Meanwhile, the other 3 are staring at the vomit as if it conceals the secret of the universe. We'll stop it there. It goes on.